Have you ever struggled with a Bible story or verse? You're in good company because we have too. And we're going to talk about that today on Happy Hour. Welcome back to Happy Hour, our podcast for young adults here at the Cathedral of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus. I'm Rick.
I'm Holly.
And I'm Janet.
And we're the three amigas. I can't be an amiga. You can't be an amigo.
You can't be an amigo.
I don't know what we are, but we're here. We're back.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
It's been a hot sec.
It has been a hot sec.
Right?
Yeah.
When was the last time we all podcasted together? That's been
a month or more
for
ago.
sure.
I
Yeah.
think, right
We had some
before
snow days.
Christmas.
We had some
yeah.
Christmas. Yeah.
There's a lot of things happening, weren't there? Still are.
Yeah.
We still got a lot going on, don't we?
Absolutely.
Good. I'm not the only one.
I feel like we're all very busy people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. But and that's okay. I mean, it's good to be busy, I think. For me, I'd rather be busy than not.
Right.
Yeah. Because then my head takes over. Nobody wants that. Yeah. Trust me.
It makes me feel more productive.
Yeah. Has it been a productive start of the year for you?
I would say so. It's going to pick up for me later in the semester, and I just know it with presenting it like a quote unquote thesis. So I'm like, I know that's going to get a little tricky. So I'm a little scared that this is like the eye of the storm right now.
Yeah.
Before all the craziness happens. But yeah.
And just so everybody remembers where you're at doing what you're doing, just catch us up.
Sure.
How much more time do you have? All those fun things.
I'm graduating in May with a master's degree in deaf education and special ed. Currently I'm in an internship with just like a general public school for like elementary students. And I will be soon switching back to a deaf school, so with more elementary students. So it's going to be awesome. And I'll be, working on a big paper. So
huge research paper, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's definitely.
Janet, how about you? Where are you at in life? What's going on?
Oh my gosh.
Catch people up.
I feel like February is going to be crazy. Well, the crazy thing is like I'm almost done with my first year in Echo, like in
That's
terms
crazy.
to like my apprenticeship. Yeah. Yeah, which is wild. I can't believe the year went by so fast. But February is going to be absolutely crazy. It might be the death of me. Just a lot of traveling to do.
Yeah.
Which is going to be fun though. So I have to go to New York City in next week. Oh my gosh, that's already next week. You see, February is, and this is a leap year. It's only 29 days. So we get an extra day. However, it's wild.
Why are you heading to New York?
So I'm heading to the New York Encounter that's occurring. It's like it's a Catholic event. It's like based on like communion liberation, which is like Father Giussani's just like teachings. It is an ecclesial movement. So yeah, there's just going to be like a lot of good talks on just like modern, like polarizing issues. Like there's going to be talks on like AI and just politics and like everything that's going on with the war. So very hot topics, but like the main point of it is to just be able to have really good conversations and help our modern society, like not necessarily influence like our faith, but like kind of like inform our faith in a sense. So that's what it's about. So I'm super excited because it'll be my first time in New York City.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And then I head to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah. No big deal.
That's awesome though.
Yeah.
I'm glad you get to travel so much. At least hopefully that will be fun. Hopefully.
Yeah. I love being on a plane. It's really bad.
I can sleep instantly when I get on a plane.
Really?
Instantly.
I don't think I've ever slept on a plane.
Oh, every time. I don't know what it is. I can't sleep normally, but on a plane, out.
You trust
Really?
you must trust the pilot. I'm like,
I just don't want to know if we land or not. That's. I do wake up right when we land, though, too. It's crazy.
What?
I know.
I can't.
Oh,
I
that's
cannot
what
with
I
you.
do. Yeah. So for me, we have the third biggest day of the year coming up. Christmas is usually first,
Right.
and then Easter, and then to finish off that holy trinity of days, Super Bowl Sunday is coming. That's right. That's right. You thought I was going to say Ash Wednesday,
Yeah, I
didn't you? Well, actually, because Ash Wednesday falls on Valentine's Day, or does Valentine's Day fall on Ash Wednesday? I like saying Valentine's Day falls on Ash Wednesday. It gives ownership to Ash Wednesday. So It's a really cheap date night for this year's Valentine's. It's great. We have to, we have to fast. So
Can't really eat a lot.
yeah, I
don't
mean,
have to eat
the
meat.
great gift is going to be ashes. It's a wonderful gift to receive. But with Lent starting in less than a week, FYI, have you guys thought of what you're going to give up or take on? Has that been are you solid on it? You know what you're doing?
I know what I'm doing.
What are you doing?
Okay.
If you don't mind sharing,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. It's
I,
gonna
I-
be-
I should probably ask that first.
No, it's going to be a couple of things. Like, I have a horrible habit of just eating like ramen and like hot chips and everything. So I'm just giving up.
Together?
No,
Oh.
not together. Like just all this junk food. So basically, I'm giving up junk food. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I realize like, especially during like stressful times, that's like my go-to. Like, I'm like, I really want ramen, or I really want to eat hot chips, or I really want to eat like ice cream or something like that. Like just all of it, like gone.
Well, there goes eating here at the office because
I
that's
know.
all we have. So,
I know I'm gonna miss eating like all the chips and Pop Tarts that we have here.
yep.
But just all of it gone.
Wow.
But my other big thing that I want to do is, this is going to sound really crazy, but I think I'm going to give up music, because I feel like usually when I'm just like doing something around my room, like either folding laundry or even in my car, I'm always like, I have to put on my music, like
Yeah.
put on my song. And I realized that I lately have been just craving like silence a lot.
Mm.
And I think like when I saw like my end of the year, like, you know how like Apple Music and Spotify gives you the like your
yeah.
rap.
Yeah.
Like I was like at, which wasn't that bad. I was at like, I think 49,000 minutes a year.
I don't know what that equates to. I've never looked into what that would be, but
Yeah. So it was a bit higher than like my friends and stuff like that. I'm like, So like, I feel like ever since then I've been thinking like, maybe I do listen to music a lot. Like, even if it's like, I'm not like actually like, listening to it,
Right.
like paying attention to like the lyrics or something like that. I always have it for like background noise or
Yeah.
something.
And you're going to give that part of it up too.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's find out. Tell me how many hours 49,000 minutes is. Let's find out together. Or maybe it doesn't want to tell. It's like,
It
it's
said, I
too
don't-
much.
I'm gonna gatekeep that
No, just
info
kidding.
from you.
All right. For how long?
Oh, it was going to put a timer on for 49,000 minutes. I think I hit the wrong thing.
Your
That
time
would not have
starts
been good.
now.
Let's see. I'll try one more time. How many hours is 49,000 minutes? Oh, okay. So
Oh, it gave it to you.
you ready?
Yeah.
816.667 hours.
There you go.
There you go. That's a few days.
Mm-hmm.
That
It would be a couple months. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
If I listen to it like running, but it's just always like in the shower or
Yeah.
like in my car, right?
Yeah.
Or even here at work.
Wow.
So
You're going to go through a huge detox. No junk food, no music.
yeah,
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
You'll be
Yeah.
transformed.
yeah. I'm also not doing social media because I always do that.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
and no shopping either.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, it's
How are you
like-
going to eat?
Like online shopping, or
Yeah,
that's what
just
I was
like-
thinking
yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, like for me, it's a distraction. I'm like, okay, like let's put that aside. Just like, I feel like I don't know. I have like some very similar ones to you. I have like no online shopping. I usually try to do no social media just because it's another like distraction thing for me. Like
Yeah.
I'll start scrolling on the Instagram reel videos that are it's
I
like
do
my
this-
TikTok replacement
Yeah,
behavior.
I do the same thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so definitely trying to do that too. So I definitely feel you with that.
I started a new app on my phone
What's
the idea behind it is that you do something productive rather than scroll reels or whatever it is that we
You
do.
typically do, yeah.
Right. So it's called Headway.
Oh.
And basically what it is there are a ton of books and you get to pick, maybe a skill you want to learn or something you want to sharpen or you just want more knowledge in science or whatever it is. Headway gives, and this is not sponsored by Headway.
Yeah, it sounds like it's
it started to sound like that, and I want to make this very clear. But what it does is it summarizes the book for you. into like maybe 7 to 9 parts, and each part is usually only a couple minutes long. So it takes the most important pieces of the book and gives you that information in bite-sizable things. So instead of spending 15 minutes scrolling through reels, I have now gotten the main ideas of a book.
That's amazing.
It's really
Very
good too.
productive.
It's
Wow.
really good. I'm not going to lie to you. I've done it for a few days now, and I'm just like, okay.
Can I ask what type of content they provide?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you want it on like productivity or leadership
Okay.
or
Whoa,
yeah. I mean, it's all really good stuff. When you first sign up, it's like, what are you interested in, and you kind of choose, and then it formulates it. But you can always search in their library and just find stuff.
That's great.
So
Instead
yeah,
of reading a book, I know all the book readers might hate me for saying this. I'm like, instead of reading a book, you can get all this info in just the course of
well,
few minutes.
but you can you also, as you listen to it, right, give the summary. You can also read along with the summary, so then it takes pieces of it so you can see it as well. So I feel like it's really good. Anyway, I don't know. I just read a book today on how to win every argument. So good luck dealing with me for the rest of your lives, people.
I love it. You're like, okay,
Janet's like, this was hard enough already.
Here comes Rick.
Now he knows how to win every argument. Dang it. But yeah, that's kind of one thing too. I'm feeling like giving more time to being intentional during Lent with my time.
I like that.
Intentionality in my free time.
Okay.
That's my goal, is to be intentional about whenever I get some free time, I'm going to be intentional about what I'm doing with it. I'm not going to just go, oh, it's my time to just sit and relax. That's the term for being lazy. Let's be honest. I just want to sit and relax. Yeah, okay. Sloth is coming. You know,
I like your
it's
little finger moving.
yeah.
Sloth is coming.
Nobody saw that, but
Right.
that for me anyway, that's what it's like, and so I can't let that enter. And so maybe it's I'm reading a book, or maybe it's okay, I'm taking one of my children and we're going to go do something together, or whatever it is. I'm going to be intentional with my downtime. So
That sounds both of you all sound very sustainable, like as well. Like you could like pare it down to a very sustainable thing with intentionality, with time, and then also with like
no music forever.
Oh, that would be sad, except for that. But maybe like the genres or like just like limiting. Yeah, that definitely is very inspirational to me. So I'll take that.
Well, and hopefully to people listening too. So
Yeah.
if you haven't thought of the thing that you're going to do quite yet, or take on, or give up, then maybe that can jolt some inspiration, or maybe you just want to give up music too. It was quite a few Lents ago, I gave up Taylor Swift music.
Oh my gosh.
And
That is a lie to our listeners.
I never went back. I'm actually a trendsetter. I stopped listening to her before she was ever popular. So I feel like that's an accomplishment. I do have to share one joke that we put on the board. So for those of you that don't know, we have a board outside of our office because our offices are located also within Sacred Heart School. So the middle schoolers walk by us every day. So we have a joke of the day. And the joke that got the most heat and most interaction for sure was when I put up there that a lady went to a car mechanic and she said, there's a terrible noise coming from my car. And the car mechanic said, did you try ejecting the Taylor Swift CD?
No, no. Did you try that? Oh my goodness. I feel like a lot of our younger generations listen to her now, and she's so on the news and everything.
She's everywhere.
I listen to her.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Not starting Wednesday. You don't.
Starting Wednesday.
That's right.
Yes.
You're
my
joining the
goodness.
team.
And honestly, it's so funny. I think God has such a way of like humbling me or like showcasing to me like this isn't a coincidence. There's so many new albums from my favorite artists coming out like in March,
Of
like
course.
literally in the midst.
That's a good sacrifice.
It is.
It's gonna
Yeah,
feel,
so-
it's gonna
yeah.
feel. You're gonna feel that
Yeah.
sacrifice.
I really
right?
am, but it'll be okay.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully your Lent is productive as well. But for now, we're going to switch modes. We're going to talk about, because we were jamming a little bit, just talking about, what would be some good topics? And we came upon, are there any Bible stories or, maybe phrases or one-liners or something that is confusing to you or you struggle with in the scriptures? And I think that's really good because that's a genuine topic for a lot of people. Sometimes it's hard to reconcile what is said in scripture. Sometimes it almost seems like it contradicts itself, right? Like it's saying one thing, but then later on it says a different thing. And so how do we deal with that? So we're going to share maybe a story each from the scriptures that we struggle with or are a little confused with, and then we'll kind of give overall impressions about how do you deal with that when that comes up. How, what does that look like when we struggle? So who wants to start us with their story?
Mine's short and sweet.
Oh.
I feel like a lot of
Holly.
people know this story, but when you said struggle, I thought of this story too.
Perfect.
So when we first were talking about this topic, and then I think Janet introduced it to all three of us. Like, hey, why we should do one about this. I was like, the first story that pops in my head is Samson.
Oh.
And the reason why I think is because, okay, we're going back to VeggieTales era, right?
I love
There
VeggieTales.
is a Samson VeggieTales, and I think I don't know why, but what I took away from it when I was younger was like, oh, he's all powerful and strong. And like, that's the part you remember as a kid, because you remember the superhero components
Yeah.
of a character. You like want to, you have that innate desire to be good as a kid. I think even if, you might not, I don't know, you could have been a mischievous child. I don't know. But I think there's that part of everyone that, aspires to the good. And then that's what I remembered with that story. But then reading it later in life, I was like, oh, that's not, that's definitely.
Yikes.
Yeah, the other part of it is like, wow, he was really tempted and all these other things. And I think it's a story that maybe for younger kids gets misconstrued because it's, one that is a little more difficult for them to understand. And you're not going to present all of the information, right? And there's a
Correct.
lot of stories like that in the Bible. I was just thinking from childhood to adulthood kind of stories and what you realize later.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about Bible stories, that was the first one that came to my mind because I was just like, wow. Like I learned a lot from that one after, and then just very confused on why he was tempted so much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do you keep giving in? But don't we all? Right. And then I was thinking about Lent. I was like, this is the time to like think about what things we typically give into that we shouldn't. So I was just thinking it was kind of a good culminative story for time of Lent, plus struggle, plus misconstrued information from childhood to adulthood in general. So I don't know.
That's really
What do
good.
you guys think about Samson in
I
that
think
story?
I think he gave up his hair for Lent.
But,
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good point because I remember watching it was like the Bible series or something like that. But Roma Downey Jr. was like a producer. She was on Touched by an Angel series. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. It's okay. It was a long time ago. Anyway, they came out with the Bible, and they filmed kind of epic Bible stories, and that was one of them. And that was really the first time that I go, oh wow, that doesn't hit the same at all. There's a lot of bad in here.
right.
It doesn't feel good, and even the ending,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel good. It just doesn't. And yet Samson was filled with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
He's one of the only ones from the Old Testament that was filled with the Spirit before Christ gave us the Holy Spirit as the gift at Pentecost, right? So knowing all that, I'm thinking, well, if you're filled with the Spirit, how are you making these poor decisions? I know you're being tempted, but my goodness, you don't have to give in to every one of them. But then that realization too of like, oh yeah, I guess I do that sometimes too.
Because wasn't him and didn't John the Baptist have the same? Was it what other?
Gideon
yeah.
was
I was like,
filled
some
with
of
the
the other
Spirit. There's another one
characters.
I can't pronounce his name, but yeah, there's definitely a handful of people, but it was for particular
What
reasons
was
and
the
for
cutting
particular
of the hair?
purpose.
There was like there's a name for it, and it was like the one where you can't. It was Samson's
Yeah.
thing too, and you can't cut your hair. I thought for some reason there was another one in the New Testament.
In the New Testament, I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll
I'll
have to
look it up.
research.
Yeah.
Look it up.
We'll
Share
keep
it with
looking.
us.
Yeah, okay.
I like that. But I can see where the struggle comes in for
Right.
Samson.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Especially like the preconceived notions that you have from the VeggieTales era
Right.
to the I'm an adult now and this doesn't match.
Right.
Yeah.
VeggieTales lied to
I
me.
know.
No, I think that's a very common thing. There's so many stories, like from when you're a kid that just gets, like you just get a very short glimpse of it. Like it's the same
Right.
thing like with David. Like when I was older, I was just like, oh my gosh, he wasn't the bestest of kings, and bestest isn't the word, but like that's just kind of the way that like you kind of think back to that. Like you're like, wow, when I was a kid, like in my like picture, like Bible story book that I had, like you see like all these stories and you just get the like small snippets of it. But when you're older, you hear like you get to see and read like all the details too, and you're just like, huh. And it's to ponder, right? It's to question it.
Yeah, he was supposed to be like the greatest king, right,
Yeah.
of all time.
Yeah, but
He did some shady things.
He did some,
and
yeah.
then on top of that, did more shady things to
Yep.
cover up the shady things.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was
I
not
think
good.
I think it's important to teach. I was just thinking the future, just as the teacher brain in me was this, like, it's important to like show these things and be like, like he wasn't perfect either,
Right.
or this person wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
He made some mistakes, and you can generalize those mistakes maybe to a child level, right? So I just think that would be important. Maybe just going forward for me, at least, I don't a takeaway.
Yeah,
from
so you
this.
wouldn't probably tell the child about
what
Uriah's
Samson
wife
did, or
and
yeah.
anything like that.
But,
But you
he
take,
made
and
some
I think
mistakes.
I think you're right, because I can follow somebody that's flawed. So if somebody's standing up talking to me, and then they share maybe how they failed at what they're talking about too, and yet can still succeed, I can follow that rather than somebody standing up there who seemingly has it all together and perfect.
And is hiding.
I can't attain that. I can't reach that, And yet we're called to be like Christ, who was perfect. So that's a tough one.
That is a little tough.
It's a little tough, isn't it?
That's a toughie.
Yeah. Well, I could still follow Christ, but that's a little bit harder.
Well, thank you for humoring my Samson story and thoughts and ponderings.
Oh, that's good. That's excellent.
It is good.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to go or you want me to go? It's up to you.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Let's go, Janet.
Okay. So the story that I have always struggled with is the story of Jacob and Esau.
Oh.
And I think it's because I don't know, ever since I literally have been telling my community members about this, but I'm like, ever since I was little, I was always about fairness. Like I was always about, like, I guess equality, like everyone just being able, like, just fair all across the board. So like I struggled just so much with like the fairness and like, of the story of like Jacob and Esau, because, Esau was the firstborn, like, and Jacob stole his birthright, yet we always hear about Jacob.
Yep.
No, we never talk about Esau. And I'm over here, I'm like, justice for Esau, right? Because I feel like whenever I read that story, I do resonate a lot with Esau, like especially when, he realizes what Jacob had done, like in stealing his birthright, because, he disguises himself as Esau, like Jacob disguises himself as Esau.
To get the father's blessing.
To get the father's
Abraham's
blessing.
right?
And like, that's the most like upsetting thing. Like when Esau goes in and is just like, but father, like, don't you have just one more blessing for me? And he's just like, I can't, like, I already gave it away. And that breaks my heart, like, so much.
And then Esau giving it away too for a bowl of porridge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But like, at the same time, I feel like you can't blame him. Like, I don't know. Like, I just struggle with it so much because it's just like Jacob, you're a cheat. Yeah, we talk about you like all the time.
Yeah.
We're always like, one of our not something fathers. I can't think of the other word that we talk about. Okay, there's a technical term that I'm trying to think of that has totally left my mind, but we'll go over it. We'll skip over it. So the thing that I struggle a lot with is, and maybe I've come to some peace with it, with this fact, like, I always like struggled a lot with like, why do we always talk about Jacob? Like, why do we never talk about Esau? Like, he lied his way, like he did into like stealing Esau's birthright. But then like we read about how Jacob wrestled with God, right? And he survived that, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. Like, this is why we talk about Jacob, because no one else wrestled with God, right? And Jacob was meant to, maybe that was God's way of redeeming Jacob and saying like, okay, yeah, I know this man, he like cheated his way into his birthright here, but he wrestled with me and he actually, survived that. So I don't know. I should wear a t-shirt that says justice for Esau.
I'll make one for you in my Etsy store.
There you go.
That's good.
Everybody would be like, who's Esau? Yeah. People would join in without even knowing. They'd be like, yeah, justice for Esau. People do that nowadays. It doesn't even matter what it is.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
really good. That's a really good reflection. I
Mhm.
like that. I think we hear a lot about how, like, for example, like David, like, okay, cool. Like, you start off on a high note and then you learn later that they're not perfect, but he's starting off imperfect. So I think that's very interesting. Like you're just starting at that point and then he wrestles, right? So I think that could also impact like how we perceive, because we always see like, I don't know. I mean, we're imperfect ourselves and I think we strive for something better. So when we see that, we're like, oh, why is he doing that? And like, maybe like, yeah, that justice part of it too. Cause that doesn't make, it doesn't make any sense. You're like, what you just, this is how you stole somebody's birthright. So yeah, I don't know.
And to think about why that's, the way that it was. I mean, you're talking about a time where their father had multiple wives, right? So you've got the mom of Jacob telling him to do all this stuff too. Yeah. So this isn't just Jacob's plan. This is from mama, right? Yeah. And then mom of Esau too. Like when she finds, I mean, it really is a kind of a tragedy. But in that story, Esau is really painted as maybe not the brightest crayon in the box, but definitely a hunter gatherer kind, very strong, and very in the moment too. So there's some of this little bits on you, but obviously the majority of fault lies with Jacob and his mama, for sure, for that. And yet God can redeem all of that too. Yeah. Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah. What's yours, Rick?
You ready? I'm just going to read it to you because it's not long.
Okay.
But it's, let's see. I had it pulled up here. Okay. Oh, that's right, because I had to go and Google how many minutes and hours. Okay, here we go. That Janet has spent listening to music. Okay. So you know, like the prophets, you have Elijah, right? You have Elisha and you have Elisha.
Right.
Okay, so this one's on Elisha.
Okay.
So from there, Elisha went up to Bethel. While he was on his way, some little boys came out of the city and jeered at him. Go away, Baldy. Go away, Baldy. The prophet turned and saw them, and he cursed them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 she-bears came out of the woods and tore 42 of the children to pieces. From there, he went to Mount Carmel and returned to Samaria from there.
Well, I don't think I remember that or have read that before. I probably read it, but just passed over it. I don't know. I missed that one.
2 Kings chapter 2, verses 23 to 25.
Wow.
Wait, that is super short.
And he just cursed the kids.
And they just went about his way.
Baldy.
No follow up.
Yep. No follow up. Then he went to Samaria. Because they called him a baldy.
And then he had God tear them apart with she-bears?
Yep. Tore 42 children to pieces.
That just sounds... Okay, I understand why you picked that. That's like very... Like, why?
Yeah.
Why would God let that happen?
I actually used to have a t-shirt that...
Oh gosh.
We got the
Where's
Esau.
this going?
Now we have
This
one
is a legit t-shirt that I bought online, and it has 2 she-bears on it, and it says, respect your elders.
That's like very savage.
I know. I think it's been given enough time to where that's okay to wear too soon. No, I think it's been given enough time. But a story like that, you read that and you go, what?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
What? How is that even a thing? A lot of people don't believe it's in the Bible. Actually, when I tell people about that one,
no way.
So, well, here you go. Look it up yourself. It's one of those that you don't talk about very much because it doesn't seem right. Yeah. And I've had it explained to me, and there's actually really good explanations. I'm not going to give that to you now because it would take too much time. But when we're faced with moments like this where we read something in Scripture and it doesn't sit right, or even, I might even go a little bit further with this and say, as a Catholic, sometimes we have Catholic teachings that sometimes don't seem right, right? That and we have a lot of Catholic teachings that are countercultural, especially now. What do we do with that? Do we have a personal feeling on it and we go with what our personal feeling is on it? Or do we bend to the will of the Lord? Right? And I say that because way back in the day, I was all for capital punishment for certain things. If you murdered somebody, if you raped somebody, I felt like capital punishment absolutely fits the crime. Boom, done. And this was a long time ago, but then I had watched a movie that then made me read the book. And it really changed my perspective completely. It's called Dead Man Walking. True story about a nun who she's never dealt with people in prison before, but one day somebody wrote to her, and I don't want to ruin anything on it because you should really. And the movie's phenomenal. It's like in the 90s and still holds. You could watch it today and be very moved by it. But it really made me think, oh my goodness, I've had this thought, this feeling, my belief on capital punishment for so long. And yet the church's teaching was different from mine. But I didn't care. I was going with how I felt about it. And then when I saw this and then it opened my eyes, it was a moment of clarity for me that the Lord allowed in to, I might not always agree personally with teachings or scripture passages, but I will 100% bend to the will of the Lord on them all. And I think that's a healthy lens to see these things. It's still okay because you're still able to voice your opinion, and that's okay. But opinions change. Clearly, they did for me too. Have you ever liked a food when you were young and you don't like it anymore? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or you didn't like a food when you were young and now you love it.
Yeah.
Right. We change. And that's the same with our opinions. Our opinions change as we grow, as we learn more, and we have to be open to that change. And I think we really have to rely on those that have gone before us. There's a lot of times where I think, well, Rick does, he knows it all, right? No, 2,000 years of church history knows way more than Rick Grinstead does. It's not even close. I'm not even a speck on that line, right? So when we face these things, I think a healthy way to view it is enter into it. Like, be okay with the fact that there's some icky stuff in there, and be okay with the fact that you get to work through it, right, too. And you don't have to bury it, and you don't have to pretend it's not there, and you don't have to have all the answers. I certainly don't. But you can always find the proper answers, too. How does that sit? Does that feel like a good way of taking some of these stories and maybe not letting them slide? Because I think the temptation for me would be, let's just not talk about that, right? Or we get in a conversation with people out in the world and be like, let's not talk about that teaching of the church. Or maybe we don't even admit that we're Catholic and have that viewpoint, right? That would be the wrong way to go about it. And I've done that. So I've done it wrong, right? I think we need to enter into these things.
Right. I think it's really good, like you're saying, like to keep asking questions if you're struggling with certain teachings of the church or certain scripture passages like we're talking about, and ask people that just, might have studied those things, like priests or, just informed people that have good counsel.
Don't necessarily go to the internet for those answers.
Yeah. I would I would definitely ask some people advice like that would give good advice in general about those things. So I think asking questions about that is the way to find the answer. Yeah. And it's just whether or not you're willing to bend your pride to submit to what God's will is. Yeah. I think that's the key factor, because you might not like it, and that might, prevent you from doing the right thing morally and spiritually. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think you said it very well in you said to remain open. Like, I think that's the biggest thing, to remain open to God's voice and his whispers and the way that he's trying to work through you. And that's just his grace. And you had that moment of clarity, right? That was just you remaining open, right? And God's grace being able to come in and give you that clarity, right? So when we remain open, I think that is what allows us to continue to be vessels of the Lord, right? Continue to let him work through us. I think that's always the biggest thing for anything and everything, to remain open, because the moment that you remain closed or you close yourself off, you stop learning, right? You stop bending, right, to the will of the Lord, and you don't let him in, and he wants in, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm so glad I'm not a finished product.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because if this was it, right here in this moment of my life, and this was finished and it was over, I would be giving back to God this very flawed, very, very imperfect product. I never want to be a finished product until I'm a finished product. Right. Right. And I think that should be a good goal for us all. We can continue to learn. Some people that I know and really good friends of mine have a religious education mind of a fifth grader, because that's when they stopped learning anything more about their faith. They stopped reading about it. They stopped being interested in it. They just stopped. And that's not the way it's supposed to go, right? We're supposed to continue to learn. We should be reading good books about the faith, challenging one another, entering into conversation. But usually when you go out there's two things you don't talk about, religion and politics, right? But I think I'm okay with not talking about politics, but I am not okay with not talking about religion. It's the most important questions that we humans face,
Yeah.
right? That's it. It's the most important question. Is there a God? We have to enter into these questions and have conversations about it. Otherwise, what are we doing? What are we living for? What are we dying for, right? Okay, I think we went over on time, which is great because we haven't been around in a little bit. So I'm okay with that, yeah?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, for sure. It's great having you ladies back on this and just kind of moving forward, keep going 2024. We've got a lot to talk about. Hopefully people want to listen. I don't know. Your voices for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Like, hey, can we replace that
excited
host
for the new
dude?
year. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be
The
great.
Lenten season.
Yeah, Lenten season, and we have a lot of things to talk about 2024.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. We got a lot of opinions, so that's good. And we are so thankful for everybody that has rejoined us. We're super happy to be back. And listen, have a blessed beginning of your Lenten journey. Do something that is challenging. Really stretch yourself this year because that's how I know. That's how muscles grow when you stretch, right? So get ready to grow this Lent. Stretch yourselves. Either take on something big or give up something big. Go big or
Go home.
I knew that was going to be the answer. Well, as they always used to say to me, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, right? So we're going to wrap this up. We're so thankful for you guys. Have a great beginning of the new journey of Lent, and we'll see you next time on Happy Hour.